Hello students, good evening, and I wanted to reach out to you tonight and give you some information. First, you do have a warm-up question due this evening by 8 p.m. You just need to record yourself for about a minute, upload that to YouTube, and then just email me the link, and that will be for your attendance points tonight as well as your review questions. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about those the chapters and the review questions. You want to make sure you're doing those review questions and the +1. So you pick one of the critical thinking questions, any one that you want, and submit that. So with chapter one is basically kind of an overview of what public speaking is and why it's important. And there's a couple things that you need to know about chapter one that we will have on our midterm. And the first is the similarities and differences between conversation and public speaking. So you need to make sure you know those. You need to make sure that you know about nervousness, that it's normal, and some ways to deal with nervousness, right? We can prepare, we can practice, we can get a good night's sleep, we can eat well, we can think positively. So there's lots of ways to deal with our nerves. And then finally, the other big thing about chapter one is the speech communication process. That's a huge one that you need to know. That one is worth more than any other question on the midterm. So the speech communication process starts with the speaker. The speaker delivers a message to a listener through a channel. The listener then gives feedback, can be verbal or nonverbal. Sometimes we have interference with the message. And then finally, the seventh piece is situation. And that's like the location of the speech itself. So that's the 7 steps: speaker, message, listener, channel, feedback, interference, and the situation. Okay? Another one that's important for that chapter is ethnocentrism, and that's towards the end of the chapter, but that basically deals with the belief that your group thinks it's superior to all others. And that's something that we want to avoid. We never want to come across thinking that we are better than everybody else. So that's chapter 1. I'm going to flip my notes here, make sure I cover everything for you guys. For chapter 2, being ethics, ethics is the branch of philosophy that deals with right and wrong in human affairs. You're going to need to know that definition. You want to know things like, how can we be ethical with our speech making and speech giving processes? And things like being prepared. Don't make things up. If you don't know something, say it. Don't guess. Okay. Avoid poor language like, cuss words or name calling, abusive language. Avoid all that. And big time, don't plagiarize. And plagiarism is on your midterm. You need to know what plagiarism is and the different types. We have global, which is basically everything, like taking everything, one source to another. We have patchwork, which is taking bits and pieces. And then we have incremental, which is basically things like a quote without giving, without citing the source. And let me give you a word about that. When you are giving your speech, if you have a source, and I told you with the introductory speech, you may not have a source because it may just be you talking about yourself. But for the next couple speeches, you will have sources. So when you do that bibliography, not only are you going to put your sources in the back of the outline in the bibliography, but you also want to put them in your speech. So while you're speaking, you want to say, according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, 10,000 babies are born each year. I mean, there's more than that. I'm just giving you an example. Or according to the American Red Cross, 5 million gallons of blood are collected every year for donation. So you want to make sure that you cite your sources, not only in the outline, but as you are speaking, okay? And that's part of keeping your speech-making process ethical and sound. So chapter 3 is listening. And with listening, we're not in the classroom setting, and so it's a little bit different, but listening is important. It's important to know. You need to know the difference between listening and hearing. Hearing is the physical, the sound waves, the vibration on your eardrums. Listening is actually paying attention to understand and comprehend something. You need to know the 4 kinds of listening. You've got appreciative, empathic, comprehensive, and critical. And you need to make sure you know those. And also, what are some ways, or what are some things that cause poor listening? What are some reasons for poor listening? Sometimes you can listen too hard, not concentrating. You can jump to conclusions. And sometimes, a lot of times, we prejudge our speaker, and that too can contribute to poor listening. So just want to make sure that you cover all of that. For next week, you will read for chapter 4, and chapter 4 is about giving your first speech, and that is a perfect time to make sure that we read it this week, since we are preparing to give our first major speech. So make sure that you read that chapter really well, do your review questions, prepare your outline. Your outline needs to be typed with complete sentences. And that will all need to be turned in, and every week, again, try to turn in all of your assignments, your link to the upload for the speeches or warm-up questions, any drafts or, lists that I've asked for, your review questions. Try and turn them all in the same email. If you can't or you forget, no big deal. But if you can, please try to. And then if you have any questions at all for me, please don't hesitate to reach out. When you go to record yourself, especially with the speech, not necessarily with the warm-up question, but with the speech that's coming up, try to stand back. Right now I'm actually sitting at my kitchen table, but you can at least see me from about the waist up. I want you to step back even further, because I want to see your hands. I want to see you gesture a little bit. I want to make sure that you just have one note card, because you are allowed to have one note card. If you don't want a note card, that's fine too. But you are allowed to have one note card. So I need to be able to see your hands. I need to be able to see if you're moving around a lot, if you're fidgeting. And if you can have somebody else in the room with you, great. If you can have a couple people so you have an audience, that is wonderful. If not, that's okay too. But to really make it more authentic with your speech giving, if you can get an audience, that would be great. So I know with COVID, we're all trying to, maintain social distancing and not have a lot of people around. So I understand that too. So I hope you guys have a great evening. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.